Hi. So I've been emailing some pastors, and I've now gotten a few responses back. So I want to report some of my findings. I've been emailing about the Sabbath and a few other things, but I've been getting some responses back about the Sabbath and the Ten Commandments in general. So I wanted to address this again to the Sabbath and some of the main responses I'm getting. So I just had a pastor today email me back and use there's some verses they keep using. I guess I should say the same cherry picked verses from the Bible. They all keep using. One of them saying is Colossians 2:16-17. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or drink or respect of a holy day or a new moon or of the Sabbath days. So not to judge that. Okay. So where was Kalasai? It was addressed to the Colossians. That's in southwest, modern day southwest Turkey. It's not in Judea. It was this was not a Jewish per se region. So these people that are getting judged, they were observing the Sabbath. They were observing the feast. They were new believers that were starting to observe this, and they were getting judged by who? By their same people we get judged by. For those of us that are starting to keep these things or have been or whatever, we're getting judged by maybe it could be family, friends, neighbors, whatever. They're like, "What are you doing? Like this is not. You got to be doing our things. This is don't do those things. Those are weird. They're getting judged." And Paul's writing to them saying, don't let them judge you. Like you're doing God's things. These are not man's. Go look at the Torah. These are God's days. Yeah, He gave them to the Israelites, and we're all Israel if you want to be grafted in. So that one I'm getting a lot, and it has nothing to do with the Sabbath. I'm getting Romans 14:5. One person esteems one day as better than another, while another esteems all days alike. Each one should be fully convinced in his own mind. Ooh, that sounds pretty bad. Shouldn't do the Sabbath, right? But if you read it all, if you read all of Romans chapter 14, what are they talking about? They're not talking about the Sabbath. They're talking about eating, when to eat, what day is best to fast on. They're not talking the Sabbath. In fact, the Sabbath is not mentioned once in Romans chapter 14. In fact, the Sabbath is not mentioned once in the entire book of Romans. So you got pastors telling me that this is the reason the Sabbath is done. Listen, if the Sabbath is done, which is one of God's, it's one of the Ten Commandments. It went into the Ark of the Covenant, so it's pretty important. If the Sabbath is done, then you're going to have to use verses that actually talk about the Sabbath, or books that even mention it one time. You can't use Romans 14:5 when, if you read it, it's talking about eating, talking about fasting. So I keep getting that one. Crazy. So, and I know why they're doing it. They've been taught. They've been taught in these seminaries, and they've been taught the law is dead. So, and another one I got was Acts chapter 15 always gets used, and they go, "Oh, these are the only laws to the Gentiles." Listen, you don't want to be a Gentile. You want to be part of Israel. There's nothing there that's in the Bible. Read about the Gentiles. That's not good. Okay, you don't want that. Don't want the word Gentile Christian. Don't get me started. So Acts 15, it talks about you get into verses 19 and 20. My judgment, this is the apostles talking about, my judgment is we should not trouble the Gentiles who turn to God, but should write to them to abstain from things polluted by idols, from sexual immorality, from what's been strangled, from blood. Okay, great. And this pastor sent that to me, and they always stop at verse 20. Acts 15:21 is the most ignored verse in your entire Bible when you take it in context, because verse 21 tells you the why they're doing that. Why do they tell them that? Well, you just got to read the next. You just got to stop, or not stop, and you got to read verse 21. And I'll read it. For from ancient generations Moses, the Torah, has had in every city those who proclaim him, for he is read every Sabbath in the synagogues. It's as clear as that. Like, there it is. But that verse, you go you could do any study where they use Acts 15. The Christian church will never put verse 21 in there because it just destroys everything. It destroys their whole argument. They'll never use verse 21. Crazy. So I don't have a lot more, but I did want to say another thing. Matthew 23, because I do get, and this pastor he didn't say this, but this is so but I've seen this argument. Matthew 23 verse 3, because I'll get people to say, well, no, Yeshua or Jesus didn't say to obey the Torah, ignoring the fact that he's the Word made flesh. He lived it all out. But setting that aside, if we want, he sits there and he says in verse 3, all therefore whatsoever. Let me skip back home. Let me go to verse 2. Then I'll read verse 3. I'll just read 23, 1 to 3. Then spoke Yeshua to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore that they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not after their works, for they say and do not. What that's saying is that they're sitting there and they're telling you to do the commandments, to do the Torah. He's saying they're telling you that, do that, but don't do what they do. And that second part, don't do what they do, I don't have to talk to you about, because like I think we all agree, we all that are, at least all of you that are watching this, know that the Pharisees had their own things. They had their own oral traditions, and they didn't actually obey the commandments. They would speak about them, but not do them. So what Yeshua, your Messiah, says, whatever they say, do, but don't follow them, because they're not actually doing it. So if you think about that, there he is. I mean, obey our Messiah. Amen.